Good morning, good afternoon, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar on Migrate to Azure PostgreSQL. Whether you're planning a move from Oracle, SQL Server, or any other legacy system, and today's session will give you some practical insights to navigate the transition smoothly and effectively into Azure PostgreSQL, right? As organizations modernize their tech stacks, moving away from costly and rigid legacy databases has become a top priority. PostgreSQL is increasingly the preferred choice, which is open source, highly extensible, and enterprise ready. But how do you make the move without disrupting your operations, right? And that's where we are here to explore all those topics. Next slide, please. Yeah. Let me briefly introduce the agenda. We have curated the today's agenda as we want to be more meaningful for this 1 hour, which is going to be spending, right? And we'll briefly cover the basics of PostgreSQL, understand the migration as a whole process through the tools, assessment, and migration planning. We'll then do a quick discussion around the migration process and modernization benefits using Azure PostgreSQL, right? We have our migration tools, which is a proprietary tool, and it is capable of migrating databases from any database to any database. And finally, we'll also cover some of the case studies and the customer wins. Next slide, please. Yep. Let's now move to the core of today's conversation by introducing our esteemed speaker panel here. And we have Mike Simon, who is our Microsoft GBB for open source and AI. And over to you, Mike. Can you have a quick
intro? Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Mike Sandman. I'm a part of the global GBB team at Microsoft, in charge for migration projects for customers and with customers, of course, from Oracle in direction to Postgres, which is quite popular pattern as mentioned today. And happy to join the call. Over to Venu, please.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. I'm Venu Gopal, Technical Director for Data Migrations here at Quadrant. I'll lead our product development, QMigrator. Have 20 plus years of experience. Yeah, over to you, Sriram.
Hi, this is Sriram Shivkumar. I'm Technical Program Manager, Cloud Migrations. I'm based out of India, Hyderabad. And I'm primarily into the cloud migrations for databases, application, and homogeneous and heterogeneous migrations. Thank you. Banu?
Sure. Thank you so much. And it's me, Banu, and I'm working as a business development manager with Quadrant. And I have 12 plus years of experience in customer and account management. And I work with the partner alliances on the go-to-market strategies, conduct research, and identify the new markets and also the customer needs. And thank you everyone once again for attending. And let me quickly walk you through about our Quadrant Technologies. Right. Let me briefly introduce you about what is Quadrant and what we are doing, right? So Quadrant Technologies, it is a cloud data and AI company, and we are a Microsoft partner with solution partner designations in data and AI, digital app innovation, and Azure Infra. And we are also a featured partner for Fabric. We are AMP enabled, Azure Innovate, ECF enabled, and ASP. And as you see, we are headquartered in Redmond, Seattle, USA, and we have operations in 10 plus countries. And essentially, we have 100% of our customers who are having repeat business with us. And we also have more than 40 plus marketplace offerings and 2,000 plus customer success stories with a great track record. And our marketplace offerings, it includes our QMigrator and the Intelligent Analytics Accelerator, which is built on Fabric. Yeah. Next slide, please. And when it comes to geographical presence, we are globally operating in 10 plus countries with 18 delivery locations across the globe. And we also have 5 offshore delivery centers in India, and we are customer centric. So this slide, basically, we are outlining our key focus areas ranging from cloud migrations, app and infra modernization with the data state, using Fabric and sorry about that. Yep. So each of these areas, if you actually keenly look at that one, we represent a key pillar of our expertise, right? We have industry-winning accelerators such as QMigrator that bring the key advantages in no time to production. So our approach is holistic, covering the full spectrum of enterprise transformation, ensuring our success. And as we proudly say that, which is our proprietary tool, it is a solution to the challenges in the current large-scale enterprise data migrations from the legacy platforms, providing seamless transitions with built-in AI support. And it is backed up by our Data Migration Center of Excellence, which we ensure a very efficient migration process, right? Keeping your data workloads with our certified solution experts. So, yeah. So please reach out to us if you need any further information post the webinar. And with this, I would actually hand it over to Mike, who will be covering why anybody need to be migrating from Linux onto prem to cloud and specifically to Microsoft Azure. So this is the first and the foremost objective of this webinar. And Mike will be covering all these details. And over to you, Mike.
Thank you so much, Yogita. So in the next 5 to 10 minutes, I would love to give you a quick information why Azure and Postgres is a perfect fit together and why you should consider Azure as your potential landing zone for all Postgres related workloads, lift and shift, or also in terms of heterogeneous migrations. Next slide. So what is Microsoft doing in terms of Postgres, right? Potentially new for you, but Microsoft is a board member of Postgres itself. So it consists of 7 board members. We are one of them, and we are actively working on the source code of the open source community version. So everything what is Microsoft doing, and you see it on the bottom right of the picture, is done inside the community version. So for Postgres 7, we just did 412 commits inside Postgres 17. So you see how we just actively enhanced Postgres in terms of bug fixing, but also in terms of feature enrichment. Furthermore, Postgres is covering core extensions, and you see here one of them is Citrus, which is a scale out. I will come later to this, which is owned by Microsoft, is extend and operate by Microsoft and brings back to the community. Under the following links, you will see what's Microsoft doing in enhanced and why Postgres is a native Azure service in Azure itself. Next slide, please. So here you see what Microsoft is doing, right? There is, by the way, an open source public web page available. If you're just looking for Postgres, you'll find additional one. But let me quickly just drop you on one of these initiatives, right? And I start in the upper line on the right side. So we are in charge for a couple of extensions, right? Extensions give Postgres the capabilities to extend their capabilities, their features, and we are in charge here for the PG auto failover, the column store, FDW, the foreign data wrapper, the HLL, the PG cron, the top N, but also for Citrus, right? Citrus is a core extension which is extremely popular and is a cloud agnostic solution in this case. Based on that, we integrate the operational requirements you as a DBA or developer has to develop your Postgres related solution patterns by integrating all the capabilities into Azure Data Studio or Visual Studio Code, which are quite popular developer UIs. And finally, I like to just point you on something where Quadrant Technologies give you also some more deep insights on Dapre, which is an distributed application abstraction layer between applications and databases to give you all the flexibilities to have instead of just tight coupling of application and databases. At the bottom right, you see some extensions, the 2.1, which are developed by Microsoft for the Postgres Flexible Server, which gives the Postgres server itself seamless integrations with other Azure native services. In this case, for example, to mention 2 of them is Azure AI, which is available as an extension, Azure Storage, which gives the capabilities to share, for example, logs related data instead of storing them in an RDBMS database, to store them on Azure and to just store only the metadata in Postgres and to join them, right? This gives a couple of additional flexibilities. It's not a must, but gives developers a smoother integration here. Next page, please. So where's Postgres available? Azure Postgres. Azure Postgres is available around the globe, right? And if you talk about Azure regions and you see all the points here, we have Postgres Flexible Server running in all 3 zones, mostly. So that means you can use Azure Postgres in an extremely available region coverage around the globe. There are additional new regions coming up, which are the triangles here, for example, South Africa, you will see, but also in France Central, which will be developed and is available soon. Next page, please. So now I like to just drill a little bit into what is on the roadmap, right? What is Microsoft doing here and why it's really a native core data service in Azure. I just start with infrastructure-related roadmaps, and over the time, the requirements of customers increase in terms of IOPS and throughput. So we started with premium storage, which are the SSD V1, which gave customer at the beginning an throughput of 20K. And we already put SSD V2 into place in the public preview, which gives customer the possibilities to scale up till to 80K throughput, and we will have soon available Ultra SSDs as well, which will increase and brings Postgres to the next level in terms of network bandwidth and throughput. Next slide, please. Next to the storage enhancements, we are giving you also the abstractions into serverless storage solutions. We are doing a lot of enhancements and announcements here in terms of memory and CPUs. So we are providing Postgres also with the newest AMD chipsets. They are deployed in the V6 SKUs so far. If you go into the deployment of Postgres in Azure, you will see the different SKUs. We are starting with V4, V5, V6, for example. And if you're just increasing the number of SKUs, you will have the best I/O performance cost ratio of the existing CPUs available. In total, we are offering 3 stages of Postgres Flexible Server. The first one is the development version. The next one, which limited and decreased the cost for you in terms of the available SKUs. Then the second one is the general purpose, which are in general D series, so-called. And the memory optimized are the E series one, which gives customers the possibilities to use with the same core ratio, a bigger portion of memory for the SKUs. Next slide, please. So as I already mentioned, Citus is extremely interesting, especially if you're talking about distributed queries, etc. So Citus can already deployed via the Azure portal in some of the Azure regions like Germany West Central or East US, if you're looking on, and others for sure. It gives you the possibilities to scale your Postgres clusters, right? So to add members and based on your distribution key to just store the data across the cluster members. It's a cloud agnostic solution, so you can deploy it in any Postgres version. If you go for Docker, for example, you find Citus in the same way as on Azure, but in Azure it's running inside a PaaS service. So it's completely maintained and managed from a patch management by Microsoft, for example. Especially interesting for multi-tenancy solutions. So if you have e-commerce solutions and you have clients you like to just distribute across the cluster members. Next to the distribution of the data, you can also replicate the data across the cluster members, or you can also have lookup tables on the node to avoid inter-node jumps and hops. Next page, please. So now I like to just move a little bit and to the to an extremely interesting solution which is security, right? So security is something which is always in mind of customers, how to store sensible data inside Postgres database to make Postgres as a really enterprise-ready pattern for you in your company. So, and this is unique inside Azure. So we integrated Postgres with the Enter ID. Enter ID, formerly known as Azure Active Directory, gives you the possibilities to separate data and control plane. So that means everything which will be authenticated, authorized against the Postgres doesn't need to have the user stored inside your database. It will be stored inside Enter ID and give you all the audit capabilities you need to satisfy if an auditor is coming in and ask you who, when, from where was the connection happened, for example. Next slide. Not only in terms of the integration of Enter ID, we just enhance the security topics because security is very risk management solutions. We also give customers, developers the capabilities to integrate system or user managed assigned identities. So that means if you have applications, you like to give the application the capability to authenticate against the database. That can be done by managed identities, for example. This is something which is part of an overall security concept, and something I like to just mention here because, as just stated out before, security is one of the top priorities at US customers. Next slide, please. Furthermore, right, we just talked about authentication, authorization. That's always a topic because if I move data from on-premise to Azure or to any clouds, the data classification might change, right, from public to sensitive, and I need different solution approaches like bring your own key. So the encryption of my data based on my own certificates, right? How can I do this? So for this case, you can enrich your Postgres database by adapting, for example, an HSM, stands for Hardware Security Model, which is a FIPS 140 certified module to store your own certificate for encryption of your data. So this is called Azure Keyword and give you an enhanced level of security as well in terms of encryption of your data. Next slide. So plus what's also happening, right, and you already probably heard it, is the data dictionary attacks, brute force attacks. This is something where you can use in addition to your purchasing of the Postgres Flexible Management Server, the Azure Defender. So Azure Defender is like a firewall to protect you against all this mentioned attacks, especially, and it's not a separate tool. It can be directly just paid in addition for this. Plus, what is not mentioned here is also part of this Postgres solution is we have a built-in PG bouncer, for example, for load balancing purposes if you have applications which are not using any connection pool so far. Next slide, please. So this was just in terms of infrastructure enhancements and roadmaps and security, but what we are doing inside Postgres itself, right, with the community, for the community. So we just did some built-in optimization in terms of automatic tuning. So that means, and I just reflecting here on two solutions, is an index recommendation. This index recommendations is not only to analyze your data and to give you an recommendations to create an index. It gives you also recommendations when to drop an index, right? Because this is mostly what we have seen at customers. There are indexes which potentially impact your workloads in a negative way. And this is something which is also just highlighted here if unusable indexes can be dropped. And this will also just reduce and decrease your storage overall. Furthermore, we give you recommendations based on AI-related workloads, what type of server parameters needs to be tuned. So to maximize your workload performance, which is extremely in interest for a lot of customers of you. Next slide, please. What do we have as well in terms of built-in solutions? And some which is extremely, and this is highlighted here, and I was super apologize that I cannot highlight more of this fancy, nice features due to the time restrictions is AI-related capabilities. So Microsoft developed vector-related algorithms which are free available. And the one I like to mention here on the slide is DiskN. DiskN is a vectorized performance algorithms which decrease the amount of storage you need to just store this output of a vector, which increase the overall performance and is therefore extremely fast and something you can just check out. Next to that, we are also just supporting the Apache available graph extensions like Apache HGE here, for example, and additional other solutions. What I also like to mention here is something which is extremely interesting, and maybe you already work with it, like the Copilot solutions, which is available with Postgres Flexible Server. There's something like it called MCP. I'm not sure if you heard about it. MCP is a server, it's a protocol which allows you to manage the Azure database for Postgres resources for natural language prompts. This is something especially which is interesting if you're just looking for AI related workloads and Postgres in combination. Next page, please. Here you see how you can use AI from an extension point of view and from an OpenAI point of view, right? So LLMs, the models are different in terms of size. And sometimes you just have very small LLMs models, large language models in a smaller size, which could be used directly inside the database. Or if you have big data warehouses with big databases which needs to consume the big LLMs, you can use it outside. And you see here how Postgres, the Azure Postgres Flexible Server can be used to benefit from both options. So you can just enable the extensions of Azure AI inside Postgres and register the model inside Postgres, or you can just use OpenAI in Azure itself and do this. There's a solution called Fabrics, which is also just developed and provide one lakes where the Azure Postgres can be a natural fit. So you can mirroring the data from a Postgres database or Fabrics into this one lakes as well. So this brings you into the possibilities to develop a unique, holistic data catalog and data governance across your entire data estate, which could be Postgres, but also other data stores as well, without the requirement to copy the data across the different data stores. Next page, please. So this was finally something where I just like to reflect at what's coming up, what is new, what is the roadmap to give you the confidence that Postgres is a strategic data pattern for Microsoft in Azure. And now I like to just drill a little bit on how to deploy this, right? From an infra as a code perspective or other topics. So we have different flavors here, and we are supporting both domain-specific language like Terraform. So all Terraform modules are in general up to date, but also Bicep. Bicep is a Microsoft-specific domain-specific language model. Why should I use Bicep? Partly it's a little bit more updated because everything which is coming new or will be enhanced is a little bit quicker available in Bicep, but there's no need for sure. But you can also use Ansible, for example, or ARM-related templates. ARM is the Azure Resource Manager to deploy Postgres over the different available APIs like REST APIs, PowerShell, CLI, what you have available and where you feel most comfortable with. Next page, please. So what is Microsoft doing with Postgres, right? Is Microsoft adapting Postgres itself? Are they just a heavy user of Postgres? The answer is yes, right? And I just wanted to highlight this with this slide. So the biggest database, or one of the biggest Postgres cluster we are using, they're based on Citus, by the way, is a Vanish database. The Vanish database has about a volume of roughly above 4 petabytes. So, and what it's doing, it's just collecting and streaming all telemetry data of Windows Server into this cluster to recognize unusual behavior, for example, right? So this is something where we just use Postgres, and we also just bring Postgres into this next level to just scale out and use it for heavy enterprise database customers. With this word, I'd like to just hand over to Sriram, who will now cover the migration challenges we figure out in the field. Thank you so much for listening.
Know, right, why Postgres is very much important now and what Microsoft has offered in terms of performance, scalability, and the features. Now I'm going to walk you through about the migration challenges. Next slide, please. So typically, when we do the migration from on-prem to cloud and cloud to cloud, right? So can you move on to the next slide, please? No, not this one, back. No, back. Yeah. So the kind of challenges that we face is, like the data type differences, especially when we are migrating from cross database platform like Oracle to Postgres, SQL Server to Postgres. The first thing that we need to focus on is the data type differences, and there are challenges with respect to sequencing and identity columns. And then we have to do the conversion of stored procedures to be compatible with Postgres, and post migration to Postgres, we need to ensure that the performance is fine tuned according to the needs of the business, because different databases, database settings are different. So you need to find the optimal performance settings by performing some load test, and we have to fix the performance optimization. And then to support, the application might be compatible for working for different databases like SQL Server, Oracle, or something like that. So you might have to change the data access layer in the application to be compatible to Postgres. And while doing the migration itself, let's say if your database size is huge, right, you need to ensure the speed of migration is faster. So you need to have the enough infrastructure and configuration required to migrate from cross database platform migration, right? And then post migration, we need to validate the data that has been migrated, and we need to ensure the functionality is working fine, right? So there are some migration tools that are already available, which I will walk you through. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, next slide. So the primary tool, is Azure Migrate. So this is a Microsoft product where you can do the um, it will help you to decide and plan, execute, and migration to Azure. So it will help you to find the best migration path, assess for Azure readiness, and identify the cost of hosting the workload in Azure as well, right? So it provides support for databases, web application, virtual desktops, and it can also help you in the large scale offline migration using Azure Data Box. This is pretty much about Azure Migrate. And under the Azure Migrate umbrella, there is something called Azure Data Migration Service. So can you go on to the next slide? So Azure Data Migration Service can help you to migrate homogeneous database from Postgres on-prem or Postgres hosted in AWS, Google, and we can migrate to Azure, right? So it can help you from any database location to Azure Postgres. So while using this service, it can help you to provide the pre-migration validations to ensure that the readiness of your Postgres source database is compatible enough to migrate to Azure. So we need to make a little bit of tweaks, changes, and we can migrate that to Azure. So it supports two types of migrations. One is offline migration and online migration. So offline migration is simple, fast, and productive, and it's ideal for straightforward migrations. And online migration is whenever you are having a lot of changes in the databases, and For larger applications, we can opt for online migration. And when the data is completely in sync, we can have a cutover in the online migration. So for using the data migration service, you can probably set up in a VM, and there is also a service as a PaaS service which is in preview state. We can use as a PaaS service configured in the Azure portal. So this is about Azure Data Migration Service, which is useful for homogeneous migration. And we'll talk about heterogeneous migrations with the Quadrant's Q Migrator. Can you move on to the next slide? Next slide, please. So QMigrator is a database migration platform where we can migrate from any database, typically to Postgres. So it handles, as you see in the screen, IBM DB2, SQL Server, Oracle, um, MySQL, and Postgres itself. It has all the migration capabilities that can help you to achieve your migration speeds, quality, and and achieve your goal to move to Postgres. Can you move on to the next slide, please? Yeah. So it's a Q Migrator is Quadrant's migration accelerator, where we can help you to collect all the documents from the client, which has a client module, and we have an assessment module where it can scan your database and provide you the assessment report in terms of the complexity of migration, gap analysis, the cost and timeline, everything we can provide as part of the solution assessment document. I can help you to migrate the data itself from any source to any source, particularly Postgres cross database platform migration. And since this is hosted in Azure as a as a container in the Kubernetes, you can scale up and down regarding with respect to your need and speed of the migration. Right, it can help you to validate your data post migration, and also validate your functionality after conversion of the schema, right? And it can help you to deploy the application for the changes, and then you can track the progress of migration through the reports. So it is a complete package that can help you to migrate homogeneous databases, heterogeneous databases, and it has completely hosted in customer subscription. Yeah, can you move on to the next slide? So the typically migration process involves the first activity is the assessment, where you will do the code scan, get the AWR report, define the architecture, define the migration complexity, and prepare an assessment plan. And then if there are any complexities identified, you might have to do some POCs. And then post that, you might need to set up the migration. You have to prepare the migration plan and convert the schemas, convert the tables, and set up high availability disaster recovery. And we have to perform the production cutover. And we have to perform development, SIT, load testing, UAT, and production. These are the typical stages. And then finally, we can use for the warranty and the hypercare. So all in all, if you see from the licensed databases to Postgres, anywhere between 30% to 80% is the cost savings, depending upon the size and the complexity of the database and the licenses that we have. So it's a win-win situation where you are planning to migrate to cloud, and then you are saving the cost, and then you are also modernizing your application. Yeah. So with this, I will conclude, and I think Venu can take it up from here. Venu, over to you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sriram, for covering the migration process. So now I'm going to cover in detail about the assessment and migration plan. So part of the assessment, we have to do discovery, um, like collecting the inventory of the databases, and each database, when we scan, what are the database objects we have, and what are the code objects and its complexity, and the database size and all, and understand the architecture. What is the current architecture, and what is the intended architecture? Is it going to be same, or any changes we are doing? And like for databases like Oracle, there are AWR reports which gives what is the current capacity utilization, peak hour utilization. And apart from this, we also have to conduct information sessions with the stakeholders, like what is the business process, data flows, and what are the current system challenges that we need to understand, part of the assessment. So, we analyze all of this, we understand what are the supported and features, and what are unsupported features, and are there any workarounds, and we have to do any POCs for the unsupported ones, any rewrites we have to do. We need to understand all that, and we have to plan, and we need to put that into the part of the plan. So any risks also we need to identify and bake that into the part of the migration plan. So based upon doing this, all the assessment, we should able to identify the infrastructure that is needed for post migration, and we will be able to identify the TCO of the target system, and with that we should able to also do an ROI analysis as well. So once we did the discovery and assessment, we had to put together a migration plan, which is like breaking down the project into multiple phases. Like if there are multiple databases, you can do one database at a time, or one application or workload at a time. And within that, again, breaking down a phase into milestones, either by modules or workflows, right? Then how we defining the SIT cycles, load test cycles, and UAT cycles. All that needs to be planned. And we have to do a resource loading, how we are ramping up the project and ramping down the project. And as well, like important thing to plan is the production cutover, like do some mock migrations, mock cutovers, and be ready with that. So as part of all this planning, we'll have like a migration assessment report, migration plan, and a TCO report. That should be the usual deliverables of migration assessment. And with migration process, we'll go a little bit in detail about the migration process. So first and foremost is to create the environments, have a reference environment if it is a complex migrations. If it is a straightforward migration, we do not need it. A Oracle or any wherever the database data is coming from, the platform reference environment is not needed. But otherwise, if it needs a series of code conversion and that have to be tested, so it's better to have that. Apart from that, like having the development environment like SIT, UAT, the staging environments and prod environments are important. But we can create them as we go along. And environment to deploy the tools as well. Deploy the tools as part of the environment's creation is important. So the migration process itself, typically like a schema migrations, which is storage objects migration, take it from whatever the source database is, and then have it converted into target PostgreSQL format, and deploy into the target and do the data migration and data validation. That is one part. And then actual code like stored procedures, functions, triggers, those ones, convert them and deploy and find if there are any execution issues. All right. And there could be other things in the database like users and roles, like any other replication setup or any jobs. We have to migrate all that. And then the test cycles are important, like first to make sure that there are no execution issues, and functional wise everything is working fine, performance is good. It has to be tested in different test cycles, and make sure that the workload is remediated, like application or ETL. All those things have to be remediated as well. And the migration process, right after that, it is going to be heavy in testing. Like we have to make sure like the test cases are prepared, how we are executing the test case testing, like define your SIT cycles and then execute them, and any issues you see it, back to the development team to fix them. So this can go for a few cycles, how the between development and the testing team to make sure that the application is tested with the database changes. And once we reach to a good point, then executing a load test cycle, right, to start initially with just a single user testing, but gradually increase the load and reach to the 100%. And make sure that we are getting the performance that is either meeting the existing database, or like if there is a benchmark from the business or stakeholders to be at a certain way, and we need to meet to that. And once we are done, then we need to execute UAT cycles before we go to production. And the production cutover process itself, again, define means create production environment with all the security in place, and then do like your initial load and CTC, do some mock production cutovers 1 or 2 times to make sure that everything is prepared, and then do like sanity testing after actual once you do the cutovers. But you can have a good go live plan, like end user preparation, like supporting plan, and how the what happens after cutover, all that. So that will cover the migration process, and I will move on to next, like how we can, once we do the migration, how we can modernize. Like we have heard from Mike, like there are a lot of features available in Azure PostgreSQL to modernize the applications with the AI enabled. So I'll take a sample application and walk through. It is an application that actually we used. I mean, it's like our migration assessment. We incorporated and we have used Azure PostgreSQL heavily to build this assessment application. Migration assessment application using AI. So it is built to actually streamline and fast track the assessment for the end users. So it guides the users in terms of asking the questions, or when they have given, like if there are any sessions happening, it takes the information from those sessions, uses the transcripts, and it understands, and also whatever the reports that are uploaded, like discovery reports, it uses all that and understand what information is available and what information has to be requested, and it navigates the user to complete the assessment. The core technologies that are used are like Azure PostgreSQL within it, like a PG vector, disk ANN, and semantic search, and then Azure AI extension for LLM integration, and outside AI agents also we have used. So typically the workflow is like when the data ingestion is basically any documents, assessment related documents, or the project related documents are provided, they are uploaded, or like we do have a discovery tools, part of our tool, that will create the code scan, and it will provide a code scan report, or AWR, it will process AWR reports, and it will create the AWR report. So those can be uploaded to the database, and whatever the documents that are uploaded, those are like embeddings are created, and those embeddings are stored in the Postgres database. Both the actual data and the embeddings both are stored in the Postgres database. So that is like an ingestion process. And then there is a gap analysis process where we have a baseline how the assessment supposed to be. Like if it is, let's say, for example, Oracle to Postgres database migration, what is the information we need to collect? That is the baseline. So it is compared against the data that is collected is compared against the baseline data, and now it knows like what is the additional information it has to collect. Agent will identify AI agents will identify that information, and then it will ask users through questions, Q&A. It will be like a guided again to get that information. And through that, it could be just a voiceover, and like those transcripts can be again uploaded and then fill that information. And so behind the scenes, what we are using is, again, we are using RAG, right? When any question, like anything is information is coming from the user, that information is again we are making into embedding, and then based upon the data that we have in the database, we are searching using this RAG model and getting that information, passing it to the Azure AI extension to take the context central data, right? Like it has probably a lot of matching data, so it processes that and it will refine and see what is the information it has to take, and how it has to add to the existing information, already existing assessment information, and the new information will be added. All right, all that will be again done through agentic actions. The agents will do that, understand and guide in such a way that the assessment is completed. It's like a guided assessment. So the whole point is to tell you that how good the PostgreSQL is useful to do all this. So I mean, this is an application we have developed, but as a user, when like anybody who is migrating their databases into PostgreSQL, they can use these features and then modernize their databases and applications using these AI features. So this is the typical workflow, like setting up the environment, Postgres with all the extensions and all, like the data ingestion, right, and embeddings generation and storing, and creating the vector indexes behind the scene, like using disk ANN, and then the query processing, which is again whatever the information coming from the user, convert into embedding and then query it, like do the semantic search, similarity search, and use RAG, and then having on top of it just an agentic actions will actually take the necessary actions. So together, this is this is what will be helpful. All these steps will be helpful in modernizing your database or applications. Okay, thank you there. So I'll go through a few case studies that we have done using our tool QMigrator. Recently we have done in a healthcare application migration from Oracle to Postgres. Like it is, it's a legacy application with application in .NET. Right, like customer has a scalability issues, not able to expand to new regions, and even within a region, when they need more capacity, they are not able to get being on-prem. So migrating that into Azure PostgreSQL, it given the customer flexibility to expand fast. It is like very this is a very complex application. All right, with the 80 plus interfaces for this, we and about 8 regions. All this is migrated into Azure PostgreSQL, and we are already seeing the benefits. I have some stats in next slides, so I'll walk through that. And similarly, like we have an e-commerce customer, which is data heavy. They are migrating like petabytes of data from their database, like from their Oracle database into Postgres. So all that like our QMigrator works at a scale to migrate this data. We migrate almost one database a week into in Postgres. That also those stats I have in my next slide. So here you can see in terms of code conversion, the left side, the database is having like 4,000 plus tables, partitions, indexes. It has synonyms, sequences, and all. But the important thing is the highlighted ones. Like it has 200 plus packages, 11,000 plus procedures, 1,000 plus functions. All this are converted into Postgres format. Right, I mean, QMigrator did a very heavy lifting in migrating that, in converting that. And similarly, from a data migration perspective, like it has capability to migrate like about 10 terabytes of data per day. Right, that is the transfer rate it can achieve. As long as source and target supports for migration cluster and the network bandwidth is there, we can scale up the migration cluster and then have that migration done. Right. In terms of we also do the transactions also about 1 terabyte of data. We can migrate to the target database. So like not only just to the databases, but we integrated into Fabric as well, where we can replicate to Fabric so that customers can do analytics on the almost near real time on their data from their databases. So you can see more information at qmigrator.ai. Next slide, please. So typically, like I just want to give an architecture as a giveaway, right? It's from different sources. Means we have the Kubernetes service platform and we have an autonomous job agent. What it does is like we have it creates the jobs. The QMigrator creates the initial data load jobs and the CDC jobs, and like with the ETL approach. And these jobs are run automatically, and the job agent monitors them. And if there are any failures, there are retries, and if even after retry it fails, job agent in some cases it can recover itself and then restart those jobs. Like in few cases, human intervention is needed, but for most part, it is autonomous because you do one click. Like you define your source connections, you define your target connections, and start the process, and it takes care of everything. Right, how it has to divide, create the jobs, and then execute the jobs and monitor the jobs. It takes care of all. Yeah. So means, see, we went through all this, right? What are the challenges, migration challenges, and the migration tools and the migration process? How once we do the migration, how we can modernize, right? This is all means can be done with a team like Quadrant has a data migration center of excellence team, which we provide assessments like database migrations, optimizations, administration, database administration as well, and AI enablement to customers. Like we do trainings and we do boot camps as well. We have a lot of these offerings, migration offerings in the Azure marketplace. You can see here, and the QMigrator itself, like we want to, it's like a migration as a service, right? Everything from any database into Postgres or any other database, we will be we will be able to migrate seamlessly with QMigrator, and there are a lot of happy customers. You can see them. All right. With that, and right, we are with this webinar, we can offer a free assessment to your PostgreSQL or MySQL workloads at no cost. Please scan the QR code here, and you can subscribe for that free assessment as well. Back to you, Banu. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Renu. And yep. Thank you so much, Venu, and thank you all for your participation today. And it's definitely a pleasure discussing the journey of migrating the to Azure database for PostgreSQL, right? And we hope this session is very useful, and it definitely have provided you some valuable insights and for your own migration and the modernization plans. Feel free to reach out to us for any further inquiries, and we'll get back to you with a quick email for your inputs and feedback on this. Looking forward. Yep.
So I can take this question. Many healthcare providers rely on legacy EHR and EMR systems. What are the Microsoft best practices for migrating these critical workloads to PostgreSQL without disrupting patient care or compliance? Yeah, thank you for that question. Like we migrated a large healthcare provider, right? So the key is um, do this migration, test it, test for the performance, test for the functionality. Means you use a tool like a queue migrator, which can automate most of the migration processes, right? Very less human intervention there. And once that is done, do the testing and have a proper cutover, like have multiple, like a mock cutover a couple of times, and make sure that including users, like a user base, to see what are the things that they have to do once the cutover is completed with that user training and all, and then go for a live cutover. That is going to, it will make less disruption. Okay, any more questions? Right, I think with that, I mean, it's a pleasure to present to you all. I hope the information is helpful. You can visit qmigrator.ai website for more information on the migrations. Yeah, thank you everyone.